Hello learners and welcome to another week at CPDLF. We're on week 29 and this week we're going to do units 9.13, which is the quiz, the 70s. We're going to do 9.16, 9.17, 9.18, and 9.19. We're going to wrap it up with the project. Okay, the Carter year, the project opposite and equal reaction. So the quiz is just on the 70s, the things that we've been learning about. Domestic issues, it's going to talk a lot about Jimmy Carter, what's going on, the energy crisis, the economy, why he was having such a hard time. There were scandals. So there's quite a lot of interesting information in there. And 9.17 is going to talk about religion making its mark. It's actually going to talk about Billy Graham in there. Some of you may have heard of him. He actually recently passed away. He was almost 100 years old. He was favored by some people, and a lot of people did not like him. So you will read about him as well. And then you're going to read about the Cold War expanding. And one of the things that's in there talks about the Iran hostage crisis, and I heard about this all the time when I was growing up. It actually happened in 1979. It went on for 444 days. I'm going to show you a video of it. I think this is an amazing video. And then you will finish up this week with unit 9.19, and it's a project. And what you're going to do is you're going to answer two questions. Is your generation more or less conservative in its value system, and how do you think the next generation of teenagers would feel about their value system? Because every generation thinks that there's things wrong with previous generations and different things like that. And I always hear my father say, when I was younger this is how it was, or when I was younger this is how it was. And I know that my father's extremely upset with what's happening in the schools, and just like everybody else. But he said, this did not happen when I was younger. People did not bring weapons into schools. And so every generation kind of feels like this was not my generation. This should not be happening. This didn't happen when I was younger. So you'll just kind of look at that and sort of weigh the value system and think about how things are now and how they could be in the future and how they previously were. Okay, so something to think about. But let me show you this video on the Iran hostage crisis. I think it's very, very good and explains it very well. This is something that you should definitely know about.
In the fall of 1979, protesters broke into the American embassy in Iran, took dozens of people hostage, and kept them there for a long, long time. This was the Iran hostage crisis, an episode that changed the course of American history. Let's take a step back. This hostage crisis didn't come out of nowhere. It was the culmination of several decades of bad blood between the United States and Iran. In 1953, the U.S. helped topple Iran's elected prime minister, replacing him with Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, also known as simply the Shah. The Shah was friendly to the U.S. interests, particularly when it came to oil. The Shah was about as popular in Iran as ants at a picnic. He was a brutal dictator, and his infamous secret police, the Savak, terrorized, tortured, and killed people. Opposition to the Shah grew and grew. In January of 1979, he and his family left Iran on vacation, never to return. By the spring of that year, a religious leader, the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, took power. This is the Iranian Revolution. Khomeini established a new government, an Islamic Republic. This new government, and the young masses who supported it, had no love for the United States. They staged demonstrations outside the U.S. Embassy in the Iranian capital of Tehran. Trouble was brewing. After leaving Iran, the Shah bounced around from country to country, but after a cancer diagnosis, he wanted to come to the United States to receive the best medical care. President Jimmy Carter didn't want to admit the Shah, but relented under pressure from a group of elder statesmen led by Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller. The Shah arrived at the New York hospital on October 22, 1979. As Carter predicted, giving shelter to the Shah angered the Iranian revolutionaries. A lot. So much so that on November 4th, 1979, a huge mob of protesters attacked the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. Knock, knock. Who's there? 3,000 of us, and we're mad as hell. The mob took 63 people at the embassy prisoner. Later, 3 more people were taken hostage at the Iranian Foreign Ministry, bringing the total to 66. 13 days later, the Ayatollah ordered the release of 13 hostages, leaving 53. Another hostage was subsequently released on medical grounds. From then on, the remaining 52 were there for the long haul. They were held in the same embassy complex where they'd once worked. No hostages were killed, but they weren't treated well either. Some were beaten with rubber hoses or hung over elevator shafts. Several men were even victims of a mock execution. Back in the States, the hostage crisis gripped the news cycle.
Iranian militants seized the American embassy in Iran.
The American government demanded the hostages' release, but were rebuffed. The Iranians wanted the Shah's ship to them. No, said the U.S. To drive the point home, the U.S. froze Iranian assets held in American banks. But still, the Iranians didn't budge. In April of 1980, President Carter decided to try something different. He authorized a military rescue mission known as Operation Eagle Claw. But poor weather and mechanical failures doomed the mission, leaving America and the Carter administration embarrassed on the world stage. Carter was in an election, and his opponent, Ronald Reagan, pounced on him for being weak and ineffective.
Frankly, I don't think the president has done anything that he couldn't have done 5 months ago.
When Election Day rolled around, the hostages were still being held captive with no end in sight. Reagan trounced Carter at the polls. By the start of 1981, the Iranian government began to feel the pressure from the international community to release the hostages. The Iranians and Americans went back to the bargaining table. In exchange for lifting the embargo, Iran agreed to release their prisoners. Just hours after Ronald Reagan took the oath of office on January 20th, 1981, the American hostages were freed from captivity. The hostage crisis lasted 444 days. It was a bruising period for the United States and for President Carter. And the ugly market left on relations between the United States and Iran lingers to this day.
Okay, so I hope that better explains the hostage crisis. And like I said, people still talk about it today. People are upset about it. So there's a lot of issues in here, a lot of important things from American history that you are definitely going to learn about with these lessons this week. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Please make sure you're staying on pace. We are quickly coming down to the end of the year. In a blink of an eye, we will be done. So any questions or concerns, like I said, reach out. I'm here. Thanks. Bye.